go, champ. It's the champ, Shannon Briggs, and you're watching True School Sports. Let's go, champ.
Hopefully, man, you stop this crap when I tell you not to run. You stop not showing up on time, making your appointments. You make your damn appointments. You hear me? Yeah. Because I'm not going to be involved with someone who's not going to do that. You know why? Because I'm going to be involved with one thing. Someone who gives me and I give them a shot to make it. A shot. There's no guarantee in this business. I'm not asking for a guarantee. That's crazy. All I'm saying is a shot to make it. What's that mean, a shot? That means that you're going to do and live up to your commitments. When you start breaking appointments and not being reliable, you're not doing that. You're not a guy that'll give me a shot. I'll go get a guy who might not be as talented as you, but will give me a run for the money. Will do everything. And that's what I want out of you. And if you stop being that, then there's going to be a problem. All right? And there's no reason for you to stop being that. That's the least you could do. That's the least you could do. Because that's simply and easily in your control. Yeah, please. Nice meeting you. Good luck.
Few sports in the history of mankind have captivated and captured the imagination like the sport of boxing. And with the sport as great as boxing, as old as boxing, there's lots of history that gets lost through time. So this is the first edition of the fine print, where we look at boxing the way it was through boxing magazines of yesteryear. And today we have this March 1993 boxing scene issue with Riddick Bowe on the cover. But today we'll be exploring one of the articles about Shannon Briggs. Title of it was Shannon Briggs, Even Ali Likes Him. So should be a really good blast to the past. So on page 38 of this boxing scene magazine, we find this article about a young, youthful 20-year-old Shannon Briggs. And in this article, it pretty much explores and hypes up Shannon Briggs as the next great heavyweight. You know, he was 35-3 as an amateur, had some prospects of going to the 1992 Olympics, didn't make the Olympic team because he broke his hand in a sparring session with Phil Jackson in a sparring session in Miami. But this was an interesting time in the heavyweight division, and this was, you know, Shannon Briggs' time to really make some noise in the division. This article came out before he had lost and got knocked out against Darrell Wilson. So this is like Shannon Briggs, the peak of his hype, you know. But it was it was a very interesting time in heavyweight boxing because Mike Tyson was in jail. Riddick Bowe had just been crowned undisputed heavyweight champion in his classic fight with Evander Holyfield, the first fight. And George Foreman was about 6 fights away from retiring at the time this article was even published. So just a lot of things going on. Shannon Briggs, in this article, they talked about his meeting with Muhammad Ali. And that's why it was titled Even Muhammad Ali Likes Him. Talked about meeting him in 93. Talked about just, you know, the hype that he had around him at that particular time. Because he was 6'4", 215 pounds, of blindingly quick hands. You know, had the dreadlocks, the Rastafarian dreadlocks. And they even said in the magazine that the dreadlocks were so popular that he would go to the mall and get flagged down by women. And they want to run his hair through his dreadlocks. So Shannon Briggs was like, you know, kind of in his own way, like the Ryan Garcia, but for heavyweights. He had that kind of marketability, a lot of potential. You know, Shannon had big dreams. You know, dreams of bringing the heavyweight title to fight at Yankee Stadium in his native New York City and selling it out like the great heavyweights like Joe Louis and Rocky Marciano. You know, his manager Michael Marley, who also manages fighters like Ray Mercer, he went as far as to saying that, you know, Shannon Briggs had everything it took to be a superstar. He even went as far as to say that Shannon Briggs was destined for boxing superstardom, that Shannon Briggs could do no wrong, and that he was destined to be a star because of his engaging personality, him being articulate, him being a very well-versed, very well-mannered man outside the ring. It was going to make him appeal to a lot of people. So Shannon Briggs, as far as I'm concerned, if you go back to 1993 when this is published, he had the entire heavyweight division at his fingertips.
The speed, the explosiveness, the athleticism at 45 is crazy.
You never seen nothing like this, y'all.
Never.
You never seen nothing like this. I'm telling y'all right now.
Let's go,
I'm telling y'all right now.
Let's go,
You never seen nothing like this. Ever in boxing. You never seen nothing like this. You gonna see June 3rd, champ.
Let's go.
June 3rd, you gonna see. I'm telling y'all. I'm telling y'all. June 3rd, you in trouble. I'm telling you. This is the wrong place. This is the wrong time. You ain't winning the title. You ain't coming up over here. This ain't the come up for you, champ. This ain't the come up for you. Alright? You ain't coming this way, champ. I'm telling you. That's right. I see it in your eyes. You're scared, too. I see it in your eyes. I see it in your eyes. Let's go, champ.
The firing line is Shannon Briggs, a street terror from the Brownsville ghetto. He's been raised in the boxing gym to fulfill his own true mission.
Michael Marley, who was Shannon's manager at that time, while being his manager, his previous experience included many stints as a boxing columnist where he wrote articles about boxing, and also where he worked as a producer in television for ABC for 4 years, which is where he was able to be around a lot of the top stars in boxing. And talking to Michael Marley in the article, he was very adamant about Shannon Briggs being a boxing superstar. He said many times, this guy was born to be a boxing superstar. He gave him the feel of the superstars of old, like your Sugar Ray Leonards, like your, Joe Lewis's and the great superstars in boxing of yesteryear. So he had that part down. It was just the boxing part. His co-manager, Mark Roberts, he was very adamant about Shannon's greatness, stating that Shannon Briggs would be a champion by 1994. And this article was published in 1993, so only a year or less than a year from the time this article was published. So there were a lot of high hopes for Shannon Briggs. This is not the Shannon Briggs. If you're a newer boxing fan and you know Shannon Briggs for his Let's Go Champ antics, this is not the same Shannon Briggs talking about. This is a Shannon Briggs that had money behind him. This is a Shannon Briggs that had his youth intact. This is a Shannon Briggs that had some really, really high hopes. And we never really got to see the best of Shannon Briggs. I don't think he ever quite put it together as a heavyweight. He was trained by the great Teddy Atlas. And Teddy Atlas, Teddy, he wanted Shannon to really take the sports more serious. As you guys saw in the beginning of the video, he was getting on Shannon about showing up late and not being on time for his training. And I know this to be something that's happened to Shannon Briggs even to this very day. When I first started covering boxing, he was known to show up at the gyms at random times. So this has been a recurring problem for Shannon. But make no mistakes about it. Even though he never fulfilled the potential, you gotta look at it. You gotta think of it like this: Shannon Briggs was 2-time heavyweight champion. He held a piece of the title twice, and he never really put it all together as a heavyweight. So that kind of goes to show you the natural ability that he had. And had he put it together, who knows how much the course of history will have been. But in this boxing article that I had to read, where they called Shannon Briggs the heir apparent because of his hair, his dreadlocks, they called him the heir apparent because he was looked at by some, depending on who you talk to be the heir apparent or the heir apparent to the heavyweight throne. And his fall from grace, it was quite a fast one, an interesting one, but he made the best out of it. He still parlayed it himself into a good brand, with the whole Let's Go Champ thing. But it always makes you wonder, what if? It's like the great movie always says. The great movie A Bronx Tale, the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. And we won't call Shannon Briggs a wasted talent because he's given boxing fans many great moments in that ring, with the Liakovic fight, the Lennox Lewis fight, and the Let's Go Champ movement. But he did leave something to be desired, and that in itself is a bit disheartening. One of the greatest blessings I've ever had here on True School Sports was early on in 2015, 2016, when I had a lot of time with Shannon Briggs. When he was training at the Heavyweight Factory, he gave me a lot of time, gave me a lot of interviews, gave me a lot of exclusive content. And for that, I'll always love Shannon Briggs and forever be grateful. But, it is interesting to sit here and think about if he would have put it all together, how would the best version of Shannon Briggs have looked against that Lennox Lewis he fought, or a Riddick Bowe, or a Mike Tyson, or an Ika Biabuchi, or a David Tua. There was a lot of interesting heavyweight matchups out there for Shannon Briggs. But, he had all the ingredients, just never quite put it together. Still salvaged a decent career for himself. And I think Shannon Briggs still has a lot to give to the sport of boxing as a promoter, as a public figure, and just all those things. I think Shannon Briggs, while he could have been a great fighter, I think he's an even better personality, and that would have been the case even if we would have put his talent together. Guy has a great personality. He's a guy that's known for just being a very smart. Shannon's a very smart individual. The guy loves to read. He knows a lot about all kinds of different subjects: politics, music, health. Shannon Briggs is a lot smarter than you guys think. There's a lot of layers to him, and I've been blessed to see those things in my interviews and behind the scenes. So, could Shannon Briggs have been the next great American heavyweight champion? I think he could have if he would have put it all together. But we'll never quite know. But I thought this article was interesting, and that's today's edition of The Fine Print.
Shannon Briggs and Rob Gillis. Let's go, champ. Yeah, so like I said, we're in the gym, getting ready for David Hay. That's right. We gonna get your ass. Let's go, champ. Yeah. Let's go, champ.